All right, it's our distinct pleasure now to be joined by two members of the currently tied third best team in the LEC, SK Gaming, Treatz and TynX joining us. Gentlemen, let's get you with the cliche post-game interview question first. How does it feel to be third place, to be absolutely smurfing on so many different teams? What's the general vibe in the SK team right now?
Well, I can start. I mean, obviously it feels really good. The atmosphere has been good the entire split, even when we're losing. So I think now that we're just picking up a lot of wins, it obviously just feels better. But we're still motivated and focused on playoffs. So I think the regular season feels good to win, but it's not the end goal for sure.
At least for me, it's kind of funny because it's the teams we've been looking up to for so long. We've kind of been playing a bit underneath them, so it's kind of funny to just finally get a chance to play the LEC and then, actually beating them and having a high standing feels really good.
Yeah, I have to imagine, because you TynX are a guy that I've been watching fight for for a long time to get in. You were the Graves King before Graves was meta when everyone played it. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see you get this chance. The same is definitely true for you, Treatz, as well, especially after the stint in NA. But for you, TynX specifically, what's different about this SK environment that stands out to you when it comes to success? Has this been a standard kind of team experience for you? Show up, scrim, do your work, do your reviews, etc. What has actually been different that has allowed this to be so successful?
I think everyone on SK, the players especially, are really happy to say what's on their mind and not really be too scared to essentially flame or blame someone, for the sake of improvement rather for the sake of bringing people down. So it's just an environment where people are just really happy to share their thoughts and then eventually just fix it.
And is that just how your scrim culture works? Or is that something you guys discussed in the offseason? Hey guys, when we go through scrims, I just want you guys to be blunt, be honest, tell me what you think, and we'll improve as fast as possible. Or did you just come out naturally?
We talked about it first of all, we kind of wanted it to go that way, so it was more planned than just naturally, but it's something that I think Jesse is really good at handling, because he can kind of be the middle ground between imagine two players are really clashing, then Jesse would come in and be yo, it actually works like this, or we need to fix it in this way. So it just came from a sort of willingness, and then it just works really well because he is there as well.
Treatz, how do you feel about that kind of dynamic for having a coach rather than be, and maybe Jesse is this too, but having a coach kind of be a moderator for a discussion between players, allowing to bridge that gap, as opposed to being I don't know, let's say traditional sports coach, where it's you're going to do this, you're going to practice this, you're going to run this. How does that dynamic feel for you as a player?
Yeah, I've had a lot of coaches throughout the years, and I think in general the best coaches are the best moderators. Jesse does a really good job of this, and he also brings his input obviously to the argument. But yeah, TynX said, the dynamic that SK has is a lot of open discussion and open criticism, which I think is obviously really helpful. That's a big difference compared to NA, where it's definitely more closed in that sense, and people are a bit more scared of flaming each other. But especially in SK, I think all the players and just as the coach is doing a really good job of that.
What would you attribute that difference between NA and EU to? Do you think it's people scared of being wrong? Do you think it's more towards egos? Do you think it's more of just getting scared of getting into arguments? Because I know, for example, in EU scrim culture, it's really normal for two players to get a heated argument and then they're just friends after 1 hour because they finally came to a conclusion. What do you think the actual reason is behind that?
I think it definitely stems from something culturally. I'm not exactly sure how to pinpoint it, but it's definitely something that comes from the culture in NA. I guess it's just more scared in general of hurting someone's feelings or being very oppressive or intrusive, I guess. But in EU, I think generally just culture-wise, people are more blunt and just speak their mind. And then if it hurts someone, then it might hurt them in the short term, but it gives long-term benefit, right? So I think it definitely stems from something culturally, but I am not too much of an expert to answer that perfectly.
I think it's fair. I think to not have a strong opinion on that, because I think that's the instant thing that gets clipped out for the clickbait, and it's Treatz flames American culture. It's the McDonald's, it's ruining them. You know what I mean? As an American, I'm
McDonald's.
There you go, thank you. We definitely have enough knee-jerk reactions. I'm glad that you're not adding yours to the mix, even if it would be good for the clickbait. It's the McDonald's.
It's the McDonald's.
Blame McDonald's.
You'd be getting paid minimum wage.
Yeah. No, dude, come on.
Very true.
Easy target, bro. Free shots. So the next thing I want to talk about is actually the in game, right? Outside of the performance or the coaching aspect, outside of the success you guys have seen in-game is really interesting to me, especially for both of your roles, for jungle and support. Two of the roles that are in theory the most free to move around the map, the most free to influence the map. So I would love to know, for the topic of jungle support synergy, something we hear a lot about. There's jungle mid synergy, there's jungle top synergy, there's support, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But right now, Caedrel and I are very focused on support jungle synergy because we've seen how it pays off for some teams. How do you guys, and we'll start with your impression, TynX, how do you guys feel about your synergy as two players that are, for the most part, just starting out together, that are learning and working together on a new team? Like, where would you rate yourself in the scheme of things for jungle support synergy?
Obviously, jungle and support is like really important in the game right now, and we're obviously quite high in the standings, so we're obviously not terrible at like playing mid jungle, but I think there's definitely a lot we could change and we could improve on coming into playoffs, or like hopefully coming into playoffs, and a lot of that would probably stem from like how I view the game, and hopefully Treatz and I can find better middle ground in how we want to move around the map, and hopefully I can pick up some things from him in that sense, because I think he's been like moving really well. So yeah.
TynX, important question. Is jungle diff support diff?
Yes.
I told you guys. I told you guys.
Of course, the jungler is going to tell you that jungle diff is support diff. They're not going to say jungle diff is jungle. Why would you put it all on yourself?
The more blame I can put onto my teammates, the better, basically.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If I lose, it's Treatz' fault. Let's just put it there.
That's how it do be like that.
Okay.
Thanks, Caedrel. I have that one now.
If you don't mind going a little bit more into depth, TynX, like what do you think that you can learn, can take? Like, what is the actual clash in your guys' philosophy or your guys' understanding of the game that you guys are looking to find middle ground on? Is it that are you used to playing a different style of jungle? Are you used to maybe not playing with as active as a support as Treatz has been? Like, what is it actually that you guys need to come together and improve on specifically?
Like, I think right now, especially the earlier patches, it was mainly about like when junglers actually had free time to do something on the map, which in case like just imagine that my support doesn't have free time and I have free timer, then we kind of need to find a way where we can both meet up or like both do something at the same time, which is easier for a jungler to kind of pivot towards the support rather than a support just like straight up leaving lane and like joining the jungler, which obviously can happen, but it's easier for the jungle to make the first like sort of like, hey, move in that sense. So I think it just comes from like finding more timers for me where it's actually okay to either give up something or like find a tiny bit better timer to move with him or move with like blue or whatever. So I think it comes from like that rather than anything else really. And obviously Treatz can like be the voice of reason in that sense. He can be like, yo, here you could actually move, here you could have like, here I had a good timer for you to move bot lane and like basically grab my hand and pull me to mid lane, whatever, you know. It can kind of come from that.
Yeah, we were looking at support jungle proximities, I think it was last week. I think SK was more towards Treatz' stats pointing that you were always with Jezu, whereas a team like Mad Lions, Kaiser was always with jungle. And now do you attribute that to playstyle in a way where you Treatz, you join your jungler with your AD carry, or is it more you want to be with your AD carry just to make sure he's safe and then you'll join your jungler afterwards? How do you, is that something you actually think about during the game?
No, I've never thought of it like that. I think it's more depending on the game and the style of champions that we played. Especially early in the season, we played a lot of really heavy farming junglers, and me and Jezu played a lot of strong lanes. So I think it's natural that TynX is farming more and we're like playing more 2v2. But I think the meta is slowly starting to fade from that, and like playing more for the 3v3 will be important, I think. So I think it's something that me and TynX are very aware of, and like in general, stats like tell the truth, right? So it is true that for most of the split so far, we weren't permanently together running around killing people, but more so just playing 2v2 and then TynX joining us in the bot lane. But it's something we're thinking about, and I think the meta is starting to change a bit where it will be more towards the support and jungle.
Are you guys worried at all about if we see another few patches in this direction? Because we're starting to see range supports make a comeback. It's not all across the league. In general, Rel is still not so broken. But when Rel gets nerfed, I hope at this point, like, Jesus, this champion is so OP. Come on, how many patches is it going to take? Maybe by playoffs. Who knows? But if we do see more of a shift to the Karmas, the Luxes, we saw Morgana come in from Astralis. Like, are you guys still confident in your strength as a team? Because so many of the games that I've seen have been like single moments, especially from you Treatz and the bot lane, where it's like big flashy play, big flashy engage, you know, punishing someone with that hard CC, which feels so much harder to actually do when you're stuck on Lux duty, Karma duty, even if Lux, has her moments for sure with the ult, etc. Like, are you guys worried about a shift away from engage supports in the bot lane at all?
For me, at least personally, I don't think so. I think it might take some time to adjust. as a team to changing styles, but we've already played them in scrims. We've already had some success with them in the past, so I think it's just something that might take a bit of time, but we're definitely confident.
What about you, TynX?
I'm not really too worried either, to be honest. I think a lot of the games, even though recent games were really good, it's also been kind of his duty in the game to be the first engage. And I think if that sudden duty turns onto me or turns onto Yannick, I think we can also do that job. So I think I'm not really too worried if that happens. And then if you are a good support and you are playing range champions, you're also going to have a lot of impact in lane. Maybe they're just going to be 30 CS ahead instead and just winning the game that way. So again, I'm not really too worried.
And my question is, how do you find these engages? Honestly, first of all, the Alistar one, but then the one against XL where they're playing Zyra can Rise, they're up 2k gold, they're actually going to scale better than you, but then you and GenX just find these engages. Is it how does the communication work with the follow-up? Because you go in, GenX follows, and now if that happens once, I'd be okay, maybe they just clutch the fight. But it happened twice in a row. Was it okay, you build up Mega Gnar, I'll go in first, you come in second, or was it what was comms?
We don't really talk like that, I would say. It's more we're looking in this type of area, or we're looking at this timer. Also, just in general, keeping track of sums is very important, I think, as a support. That's why a lot of engages just look good, right? Because either they have no sums, or I know where they are. Also, I think in comparison to when I played in NA, my filter of not caring when I engage is very low right now. I don't really I don't really care what happens when I engage. I know I'm confident in myself, and I know it can turn out good, so I just go and then I just hope for best.
Just hope for the best.
Yeah, that's how you have to play as support, I think.
Love it.
That's why you see sometimes I just combo in. My team is very far away. They're in McDonald's somewhere, and I just die. But
McDonald's ruining NA and DU. What can't they destroy?
Dude, McDonald's everywhere. What about Burger King?
No, wait. We have to be careful. What if McDonald's was considering sponsoring the league and we've just tanked it entirely by just flaming them?
What have we done? Not like this.
To round things out, TynX, I'd love to get your thoughts on this first. You guys obviously have a difficult schedule. It's Fnatic this week. It's G2 Rogue in week 8. Who do you think it's most important for you to beat, and who do you want to beat the most? You talked a lot about how so many of these teams you're looking up to, they were the teams that you admired coming up as a player, but now if you want to make playoffs, you have to beat these guys. So who's the most important for you to beat as a team, and also who's the most important for you to beat personally as a jungler? What victory would mean the most to you?
I mean, straight up standing wise, I think it's more important that we beat Fnatic because they're closer to us. But I feel that's kind of the boring answer. For sure, it would be more confidence wise for us to beat either Rogue or G2. I think they're just a tad bit ahead of all the other teams. So beating them would kind of be breaking a barrier for us into the top tier, rather than just as we have been talking a bit about beating the bottom tier teams the most. So standing wise Fnatic, but I really want to take a game of G2 Rogue.
For sure. Treatz, I mean, on your perspective, you've got some opportunities to play against some crazy good supports. Trimby's obviously a rookie, so maybe that bot lane matchup doesn't have quite as much stakes as the other two do, but the Hylissang upset bot lane, you've got the reckless Mickey X bottom lane. It feels like you're going to be playing some opponents who can match you in early game playmaking. Is this an exciting feeling? Are you nervous that it's all going to fall apart? How do you feel about these matchups?
No, I mean, as I said before, it's I don't really care who I play, and I don't really care how I engage, if that makes sense. I'm just really confident, and then it goes the way it goes, right? Playing against upset Hylissang, for example, they're insanely aggressive. In our game last time, we didn't really play a lot of lane. We just forced their sums, and then the game was over on a dragon fight. So I'm just happy, and I'm just excited to play. I don't really feel any nerves.
Yeah, and if they can beat these teams, imagine SK goes to Worlds this year. They get in the same group as TSM. The anime story arc comes in. Oh, give it to me.
Oh yeah,
$6 million versus SK Sport.
Oh, Reddit's gonna love it.
$6 million is a lot of McDonald's. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna get in trouble for doing that one too much. Anyway,
it's
gentlemen,
fine. There's always a job there for you.
Yeah, thank you, Caedrel. All right. Thank you both for coming on. That's all the time that we have today, but really excited to see your team rise and to continue the story kind of young LEC teams in the scheme of things, even though you guys have both played for a long time, but young in the scheme of LEC. Rise up. I hope that story continues for you guys as you move into playoffs. Obviously, it's still a very tight race, but yeah, seriously, good luck in the matches to come. I hope we get to see more insane pop-off games and maybe some more duo highlights for both of you. Not just Treatz coming in from Fog of War, but maybe you guys both coming in from Fog of War together. You know what I'm saying? A little Gale Force, Graves Ult, Alistair Hex Flash, like everything together at once. That's my dream at least. But yeah, good luck, and we'll see you guys this weekend.
Best of luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.